Hello, how you doing? Nice to see you. That's lovely. In this week's photo, you can see, in fact, two photos of the same company, but at different moments in its decades-long life. The company, Hextall, founded in the Basque Country in 1934, used to make mass production batteries, you know, the kind of batteries you put in your remote control. Global competition, the drop in prices and many other factors meant that this was no longer a feasible market by the start of the 21st century, and the company had to pivot. The company had to change its strategy and become something new. Hextall closed its old production facilities and moved its offices into a new factory producing new lithium batteries built for companies. They now provide energy solutions for a very specific industrial market rather than mass market batteries. This is an example of a company pivoting and changing its strategy because of market conditions. You adapt or you die. Do you remember Nokia? I don't know how to pronounce that properly. Nobody does. Remember this company? A bit different nowadays. Although the company still exists. It sold its mobile phone business to Microsoft and refocused on a different sector. Nowadays, Netflix seems to dominate the whole streaming environment, but it started as a DVD rental company that would mail the DVD to your home and then you would post it back to them. They saw how the industry was changing and innovated. Sometimes I think that ordinary people don't actually understand how difficult it is to change the strategy of your company, to change the product or to change the services or to change everything. There are people in these companies who have to do that, because if they don't, the company will die. People will be made redundant. Cities and communities will suffer. There are people who dedicate their professional lives to making this happen. I think they do an amazing job. So we're going to look at 5 different companies that have managed to pivot and change. Let's find out more.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping straight into, well, a huge topic. Corporate resilience. How do big companies manage to last, even reinvent themselves when the world's changing so fast?
Yeah, the mission today is pretty clear, I think. We want to pull apart the strategies, the actual tactics used by companies that made massive shifts, you know, moving from hardware to services, or maybe product to a whole solution.
Or even just traditional business to being fully digital.
Exactly. And the core idea is adaptability isn't just nice to have anymore. It's essential. It's survival.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where should we start? Maybe with companies that had to completely change who they were, like a total pivot.
Good starting point. Think about Nokia. Most people remember them for phones, right?
Oh yeah, dominant in the 90s, early 2000s. Unstoppable, it seemed.
Right. But they started way back in 1865, a pulp mill. Then they did rubber, cables, a whole different history before phones.
Okay, so phones were just one phase. Then the crisis hit, Apple, Android.
Exactly. They lost the smartphone war, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the crucial part, the strategic sacrifice. They sold the mobile phone business to Microsoft.
Wow, just cut loose their most famous product line.
Mm-hmm. They traded that, high-profile but volatile consumer market for B2B, telecommunications infrastructure, 5G, much more stable long-term contracts. It takes guts to walk away from your identity like that.
Like courage, yeah. It reminds me a bit of IBM, another giant.
Absolutely. The classic example. Founded in 1911, they practically were business tech for decades. Punched cards, typewriters, mainframes.
But they hit a wall too, didn't they? Late 80s.
They did. Hardware just wasn't profitable like it used to be. Margins were shrinking, competition was fierce. It was becoming a commodity business.
So what was their big move? Under Lou Gerstner, right?
Yes. Gerstner led the pivot. And it wasn't just about making different things. It was about changing how they made money. They shifted heavily into software consulting services and later cloud and AI.
So from selling boxes to selling expertise, value.
Precisely. High margin, ongoing services. Sticky customer relationships. That's how they survived and thrived again. Selling solutions, not just machines.
Okay, so those are huge, almost lateral shifts. What about companies that changed within their field? You mentioned Sagasa.
Right, Sagasa, based in the Basque Country, founded 1934. They were known for everyday things, dry cell batteries, lighting.
Mass market.
Stuff you'd buy anywhere.
But those markets got saturated, tough competition, low prices. So Sagasa didn't just fold. They went like vertical, technologically vertical. They got out of the cheap consumer battery game. They focused, really narrowed down on high-tech industrial energy storage, lithium-ion systems, specialized rechargeable tech for renewables, for electric mobility, complex stuff.
So they stayed in energy but moved way up the value chain, from mass market to specialized industrial.
Exactly. They abandoned the volume game for high performance, customized solutions, competing on engineering and quality, not just price. It's a fascinating shift for an older manufacturer. That makes sense. Okay, let's talk about disrupting yourself. Netflix is the obvious one here.
Yeah, the poster child for transformation, really. Started in '97, mailing DVDs. Remember
I
that?
do. Seems like a lifetime ago.
Doesn't it? Their first big pivot was streaming. Around 2007, that was reacting to broadband becoming common. Smart move.
But they didn't stop there.
No way. The really radical move was 2013, producing their own original content. House of Cards was the big one. They basically attached their own successful model licensing content to build something unique they owned completely.
Creating assets nobody else could license. A barrier to entry.
Exactly. That's anticipating where the market is going and building a moat. Proactive disruption.
Okay, one more. Siemens, an industrial giant founded way back in 1847, electrical engineering. How does a company that old stay relevant now?
It's about integration, I think. They didn't ditch their engineering roots. They layered digital on top. They repositioned around digital industry, automation, smart infrastructure, low emissions tech.
So combining the old strengths with new tech?
Precisely. Embedding software, data, connectivity into everything. Proving that heavy industry can absolutely pivot to the digital age.
So looking across all these examples, Nokia, IBM, Sagasa, Netflix, Siemens, what's the common thread? What's the big lesson?
Well, it seems clear that survival isn't about clinging to what worked before. It's about having the culture, the willingness to change before you absolutely have to. Often moving towards complexity, maybe customization, services, areas with higher margins.
Flexibility, innovation, maybe just being open.
Yeah, and mindset. Technology forces the change, sure, but it's the organizational mindset that actually makes it happen and makes it stick. Reinvention isn't a one-off event. It's continuous. It's about being okay with being uncomfortable, really.
That's a great point, and maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Sometimes the pressure, the crisis, the pain, that's actually what sparks the creativity you need for real renewal. So think about that in your own work. What foundation might need rethinking, maybe even dismantling, before the market forces your hand?
Chat about these questions and write down your opinions and ideas. 1. Which do you think is harder for a company, changing its products or changing its culture? 2. Think of companies that failed to adapt, e.g. Blockbuster, Kodak, BlackBerry. What happened? 3. Do you think small companies have more flexibility to pivot than large corporations? Why? 4. What roles do technology and digitalization play in modern business survival? 5. What kinds of industries might face disruption in the next 10 years? How could they adapt?